Hello and Assalamu alaikum. I am Adnan Iqbal. I welcome all of you, and in this video we are discussing about the amino acid metabolism. So you know that we can break down the proteins or the amino acids for the energy, and there are three potential situations in which the proteins can be broken down for the energy. And the three potential situations are the normal protein turnover, the high protein diet, and in the case of the starvation. Now, in the case of the normal protein turnover, the proteins in our body are routinely being made and being broken down, which is known as the normal protein turnover. And the amino acids that result from the regular protein turnover might be catabolized for the energy if they are not required for the synthesis of other proteins. In the case of the high protein diet, if an individual consumes more protein than their body needs for the protein synthesis, then they will have an excess amino acid which is used for the energy. Now my question is that if you have an excess amino acid, why do not you store it? And the answer for that question is that the body do not have any mechanism for storing the excess amino acid, whereas you know that the body can store the glucose in the body in the form of the glycogen and the fatty acids in the form of the triglycerides. And in the case of the starvation, when the carbohydrates and fat energy is not available, then the body proteins are being broken down for the energy. So these are the three potential situations in which the body proteins are being broken down for the energy. So in the previous video we have discussed about the amino acid pool, and this is the summary of the amino acid metabolism. So the amino acids in the body are being generated by the dietary protein consumption and by the body protein breakdown by the normal protein turnover phenomena. And this amino acid pool is useful for the two sources. As the amino acid contain the amino group, so this amino group is a source for the nitrogen for the synthesis of the nitrogen containing compounds like the amino acids or the nucleotides. And the remaining excess ammonia by the carbonyl phosphate pathway goes into the urea cycle and is converted into the urea, and it is eliminated out of the body, because you know that the ammonia is toxic. So ammonia is being converted into the urea by the urea cycle, and then it is eliminated out of the body. So after the removal of the ammonia from the amino acid, left over is only the carbon skeleton, which is also known as the alpha keto acid. And the reason we are calling it as alpha keto acid because the carbonyl group is being attached to the alpha carbon. And the keto acids are the organic compounds that contain the carboxylic group and the ketonic group, and they are being used by the liver for the energy. So the alpha keto acids or the carbon skeleton then goes into the Krebs cycle, also known as the TCA cycle, for the energy production. So the amino acids are being utilized or metabolized. They are being utilized or metabolized either for the energy production, or they are being used for the synthesis of the nitrogen containing compounds, and their excess ammonia is being eliminated out of the body in the form of the urea. So now we will understand that how this ammonia from the amino acid is being removed. So after the catabolism of the proteins into the amino acids, the amino acid goes into the liver, and the liver removes this ammonia from the amino acid by the process which is known as the transamination reaction. Now what is transamination reaction? Trans means the transfer and amination is the amino group. So transamination reaction is a transfer of the amino group from the alpha amino acid to the alpha keto acid, which is always the ketoglutarate. So after the transfer of the amino group from the alpha amino acid, that alpha amino acid 1 becomes the alpha keto acid 1, and the alpha keto acid 2, which attracts the amino group, that alpha keto acid 2 becomes the alpha amino acid 2, which is always the glutamate. So the net result is the ammonia transfer to the alpha ketoglutarate, which becomes the glutamate, and the starting amino acid, it becomes the keto acid, which is the carbon skeleton. and that reaction is being catalyzed by the enzyme known as the aminotransferase or the transaminase, and it also requires the coenzyme or the cofactor pyridoxal phosphate known as the PLP. So the aminotransferases are named with the starting amino acid. So for example, if we have an alanine amino acid, then it is called as the alanine aminotransferase or the ALT. And if the starting amino acid is aspartate, then this is known as the aspartate aminotransferase, also known as the AST. So in the case of the alanine, it is going to be turned into the alpha keto acid, which is the pyruvate, and that reaction is being catalyzed by alanine aminotransferase because the starting amino acid is alanine. And this reaction is a reversible reaction. What is meant by that? That alanine can be converted into the pyruvate, or the pyruvate can be converted back into the alanine by the same enzyme, alanine aminotransferase. In the case of the aspartate can be converted into the oxaloacetate after the removal of the amino group, and that reaction is being catalyzed by the aspartate aminotransferase, and that reaction is also a reversible reaction in which the oxaloacetate can be converted back again into the aspartate by the enzyme aspartate aminotransferase. So in the case of the alanine or the aspartate, the alpha keto acids are different, which are pyruvate and the oxaloacetate, but the glutamate is the same in these cases. So why I am giving much importance to the ALT or the AST? Because the ALT and the AST have a clinical importance. In the case of the liver diseases, these enzymes are concentrated in the liver. So in the case of the liver disease, when there is an injury to the liver, these enzymes are being leak out from the cells and they come into the liver, and they come into the blood. So in the case of the liver disease, you will find an elevated level of these enzymes in the blood. So you know that the transamination reaction also requires a coenzyme which is known as a pyridoxal phosphate, and that pyridoxal phosphate comes from the pyridoxine, which is a vitamin B6. And the difference between the pyridoxine and the pyridoxal phosphate is the presence of the functional group. In the pyridoxal phosphate, we have an aldehydic group and we have a phosphate group, so therefore we are calling it as a pyridoxal phosphate. And what is the role of the pyridoxal phosphate in the transamination reaction is that it grabs the ammonia from the alpha amino acid, and after grabbing the ammonia from the alpha amino acid, the pyridoxal phosphate becomes the pyridoxamine phosphate, and then pyridoxamine phosphate gives that ammonia to the alpha ketoglutarate, thus again becoming pyridoxal phosphate. So the pyridoxal phosphate is working like an agent. It is helpful to transfer one thing from one person to the another person. So in this case, it is transferring the ammonia from the one person, which is the amino acid, to the another person, which is the alpha ketoglutarate. Okay, now we have removed the ammonia group from the amino acid and put it on the alpha ketoglutarate to make the glutamate, and we have got the carbon skeleton also. Now what? Now the glutamate which is formed after the transamination reaction, it went through the oxidative deamination process into the liver. Now the difference between the oxidative deamination and the transamination is the transamination is the transfer of amino group from one group to another group, whereas the deamination is the removal of the amino group. And now the glutamate which is formed after the transamination reaction, that glutamate goes to the liver, where that glutamate went through the oxidative deamination, and through the oxidative deamination there will be the removal of the ammonia group from the glutamate, thus the glutamate again becomes the alpha ketoglutarate. And that oxidative deamination process is catalyzed by an enzyme which is known as the glutamate dehydrogenase, and this also requires the oxidizing agent like the NAD plus or the NADP plus. So After the removal of the ammonia from the glutamate, that ammonia then goes to the urea cycle and is converted into the urea, and it is eliminated out of the body. And the keto and the alpha ketoglutarate, which you get after the oxidative deamination of the glutamate, that alpha ketoglutarate goes into the TCA cycle or the Krebs cycle for the energy production. So that glutamate dehydrogenase is activated by the ADP and it is inhibited by the GTP. And the reason for is that the ADP is an indicator of the low energy state, so it sends signals to make the more alpha ketoglutarate to make the more energy. Whereas it is inhibited by the GTP, as GTP is an indicator of the high energy state, so it sends signals to not make the more alpha ketoglutarate because you have enough energy. Now, to sum up all of this, we have discussed that any amino acids in excess of the biosynthetic needs of the cell, they are being rapidly metabolized and degraded. And the first phase of the metabolism involves the removal of the amino group from the amino acid by the transamination reaction. And after the transamination reaction, it went through the oxidative deamination process in the liver, and that will help to liberate or remove the ammonia from the amino acid, and that ammonia is then goes into the urea cycle and is converted into the urea, and it is eliminated out of the body. So what happens to the ammonia that is free up from the amino acids other than the liver? Now, one thing to understand is that the ammonia must have to reach to the liver, so that it must be converted into the urea, and then it should be eliminated out of the body. So any ammonia which you collect in the other tissues has to come into the liver. So as you know that the ammonia is toxic, so ammonia cannot come alone to the liver, so it has to come along with someone so that it becomes non-toxic. So the ammonia from the other tissues comes to the liver by two pathways. One pathway is known as the glutamine pathway, and the other pathway is known as the alanine pathway. Now, what happens in the glutamine pathway, that the free ammonia can be attached to the glutamate, and the glutamate which is being found in the peripheral tissues, the free ammonia is being attached to the glutamate by the enzyme glutamine synthetase, and then it becomes the glutamine. And then the glutamine leaves the peripheral tissue, and then it comes into the blood, and from the blood then it goes into the liver, where the glutamine gives away its ammonia by the enzyme glutaminase, and then it again becomes a glutamate. So what glutamine is doing, glutamine is acting like a transport of the ammonia from the peripheral tissues to the liver. So therefore glutamine concentration is higher in blood than any other amino acid, because glutamine allows the ammonia transport in blood in a very non-toxic way. And also you know that the glutamine is an amino acid which contains two amino groups, so glutamine is also a source of ammonia if there is a need for the synthesis of the nitrogen containing compounds. Now the other pathway in which the ammonia can be brought up to the liver from the peripheral tissue is by the glucose-alanine cycle. Now what happens in the glucose-alanine cycle, that in the muscles or in the peripheral tissues we have alanine, and we have got that alanine from the pyruvate by the transamination reaction. And I've told you earlier that this transamination reaction is a reversible reaction. It means that the alanine can be converted into the pyruvate, and the pyruvate can be converted back into the alanine. So in the muscle we have alanine which we get from the pyruvate by the transamination reaction, and that pyruvate in the muscle is being produced from the glucose by the glycolysis. So what really happens is that the alanine is then travel from the muscles to the liver, and then when it goes to the liver, that alanine again converts back into the pyruvate by the transamination reaction, and the liver uses the pyruvate for the synthesis of the glucose, and then the glucose will leave the liver and then it comes again back into the muscle in which the glucose can be used to make the pyruvate, and the pyruvate can be used to make the alanine, and then the alanine again goes back into the liver, and this process goes on. So that becomes a cycle in which the glucose from the liver enters into the muscle, where the glucose is used to make the pyruvate, and from the pyruvate you get the alanine by the transamination reaction. And you know that the alanine is an amino acid which contains the amino group, so the alanine becomes a source of the transport of amino group from the muscles to the liver. Thank you.